Welcome to today's Coach's Corner. I'm Mike Van Hooser, and today we want to continue our conversation about how you can not have an overbusy life and rush from thing to thing. We had that conversation on Monday, and we'll post a link to that podcast episode. But today I want to talk about 5 tips that will help you, and I've used in my own life as well as using and coaching different business leaders and athletes and entrepreneurs and people in sales and just people with different roles in life. So we're going to get to 5 tips around being more effective with our time. But I want to talk about a few things up front. I think it's important for us to know that time management is a myth. We can't manage or control time, but we can manage ourselves within the scope of the time that we have. And it's really a misnomer when we say, well, I just didn't have time for that today, or I didn't have time for that this week or this month or this year. That's a misnomer because the reality is often we didn't allocate the time to something, to invest in something that was important to us. And if it's important, then we're going to invest the right amount of time in that. So our mindset has to change around our priorities and making sure that we're focusing on the right priorities and then investing time towards that. So I want to give you 5 tips for that today, and we'll get right into it. And the first thing is defining or identifying your priorities. You have to know what's most important. And a couple of different ways that you can do that. You can think about your roles in life that you play. Maybe you're a business leader of a team. Maybe you're a part of a sports team or you're a captain of that team. Maybe you're a husband or a father or a mother, just different roles that you play. And that sometimes will allow you to think about the different priorities in your life. And maybe you've been neglecting one of those roles and you need to make that a priority and then schedule time towards that. Also, if you think about seasons or stages of life, that can help bring forward priorities because you may want to accomplish something, but it's not the right season or stage of life. And there are things that you're neglecting based on that. And you need to make sure that you're investing, in your family or in your career or in different parts of your life. And based on that season of life, the priority will come forward and then you can start to devote time to that. And then your overall calling or purpose. I think it's really important to get in touch with what is that? What has God called you to do? What is that purpose in your life? And let's say your purpose is growing other leaders. And if you're spending all your time in kind of individual pursuits or individual production, but you're not teaching the next generation of leaders, then it's not tying to your overall purpose if that's a key priority for you. So thinking about that season, stage of life, your roles that you play in life, or maybe just, again, your overall calling or purpose, that's a great way to define and identify your priorities. And that's really step 1, because if you haven't defined what your priorities are, then your time is just going to be all over the place. I think the second thing for me would be another tip is following through on a system. And it's not only just buying a system or buying a planner or saying I'm going to start using, this system, but it's that follow through. It's strategy and also execution. So follow through on a great system that's proven. I like Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. It's a great system. I've used that for years. I've also used the Franklin Covey Planner system, and what Franklin Covey has, devoted so much energy and research and processes and systems around that for years. And there's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So both of those are really good systems, but you need to make sure that you find a system that works for you and something that's proven that will allow you to not only capture your schedule, but make sure you're scheduling the right things. And so the system also has to be supported by processes that you put in place. And I'll talk a little bit more about that and some of the other tips. But you have to follow through on processes, and it needs to support things that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. Because you just don't want something that's just kind of a daily planner, but it doesn't allow you to have processes around that to be more effective in those bigger scopes of time, whether it be weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually as well. So the proven system is fine. It's very important. It's good to get a proven system in place, and you need to make sure that you're following through on that. A third thing would be scheduling your priorities and not prioritizing your schedule. And I mentioned this on the Monday conversation, and that actually is a quote from Stephen Covey, that many times we're just prioritizing our schedule. We have things that come at us, meeting invites, things that just are put on our schedule, and we're just prioritizing that. Is that an A, B, C priority? Is that 1, 2, 3? Do I hope to get to it someday? Versus really thinking strategically about your priorities and then scheduling those in your calendar. And yes, you do have control of your calendar. And yes, you do have control over defining what those priorities are and then scheduling time towards that. The other thing that's important around this is that if you using a system and making sure you're following through on a system where if you have goals, then you need to be scheduling time against those goals in the scope of a day, a week, a month, and making sure that that your time reflects time invested in those goals. If you said I want to go after this goal, but you're not using a system that's going to support, advancing the ball towards that goal, then it's not a good system and you're not putting time towards that. That's one of the reasons I like the Full Focus Planner by Michael Hyatt, because not only do you define your goals, but it allows you to schedule time in there towards those goals and make sure you're advancing the ball towards achieving those goals, which is most important. A fourth thing would be a system that we've used around any kind of planner system that you use, and it's called Develop and Debrief. And it's really a strategy of, on Sunday night, spending about 15 to 20 minutes thinking about the things you need to do, the people you need to call, and the things that you must do by the end of the week. And those are strategic and tactical. So then developing a strategy around that so that you can plan for that and that you don't come into Monday saying, well, I've got to get these 50 things done on Monday. You think strategically about the meetings you have for that week and then developing a system that you're going to attack those kind of day by day. You may not be able to get to some things on Monday because you're meeting with a bunch of people or you want to start the week on certain priorities, but then you can put those on Wednesday or Friday or whatever your planning system allows you to do, but also what you think about doing in the scope of your week, and make sure that you think about strategically, what is the strategy I want to develop for this week? And then on a daily basis, you're debriefing, okay, how did I do on those priorities? And if you didn't get to certain priorities, making sure that you answer the question, well, why not? Did I make conscious choices that were the right priorities, or did I just let it go by the wayside and I didn't focus on the right priorities for that day? And you incorporate that learning into the next day. And then at the end of the week, you also do a debrief on how you did and did you accomplish the goals that you wanted to accomplish. So using this develop and debrief system is really important. And we use that with a lot of our coaching clients to think about, what is the strategy I want to develop for this week? And then how does that play out as far as my calendar and the things I need to accomplish? And then how do I debrief on a daily and weekly basis to incorporate learnings into becoming more effective with my time? So that's a fourth tip as far as that overall strategy and using that. And then I think on kind of an underlying basis, and it's the fifth tip, is committing to say yes to things and learning to say no. Commit to your yeses. So double down on the things that you've said yes to, whether it be a role or a commitment to meet with somebody or a commitment to follow through on something that you're creatively designing or developing, and learning to say no to things. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people have a hard time with, is because when they're asked to do something or asked to take on a new role, they want to please people or they want to take on that and they think they can accomplish everything. But as we said on Monday, we can't do it all, but we can do things well. And we need to understand what are those most important priorities that we need to focus on, and saying yes to that, doubling down on our purpose and making sure we're fully committed both to from a heart and will standpoint, but to an action standpoint as well, to make sure the things that we've said yes to that we follow through on, and then learning to say no to certain things. And it may be just a no, not now, but we may get to that later on. But that's the biggest thing that I see with a lot of people, is they've said yes to way too many things and they haven't learned to say no. And then they're not fully committed to the things that they really want to accomplish and the things that they want to say yes to. And so those 5 tips, I hope they help you this week. I hope there's a follow-on that you can incorporate some of these things into your own life. And at the end of the day, you've got to make crucial choices about how you invest your time and making a difference with your life. And you can live a life that's based on priorities and that's not an over-busy, over-scheduled life. And we need to focus on that. The world's counting on you to follow through on the things that you've been called to do. So how will you focus your time on that? How will you invest your time? And how are you going to make a meaningful difference with your life? I hope these tips help you today and make it a great rest of the week and follow through on God's calling in your life by investing in the right priorities.